The sun was a hot coin pressed against the sky, and the air smelled of diesel, pepper soup, and new leather. Chisaram adjusted the wrapper tied over her bridal lace and stepped into Nikki's shoes and more, with Amarachi trailing behind her, phone already out for pictures. The shop was exactly as everyone described. Glass doors that slid open like palace gates, air conditioning so cold it felt like forgiveness, and rows upon rows of shoes glowing under soft lights like they had been personally blessed by Italian angels. Nikki herself stood behind the counter, long Brazilian hair swinging, lashes batting like ceiling fans, red bottoms clicking as she moved. "Ah, bright to be," she sang, voice sweet as zobo with extra sugar. "Come, come. I have the exact shoe that will make your husband cry on the wedding day." Chisaram laughed, shy but excited. Amarachi was already snapping videos. "Guys, we have entered Nikki's temple. Soft life activated." Nikki brought out a pair of crystal-embellished heels, so beautiful they looked like frozen starlight. "Size 39, Abi?" she asked, already knowing. Chisaram nodded. "Yes, auntie. Try am. Just 2 minutes. Feel the glory." Chisaram slipped off her rubber slippers and slid her feet into the shoes. The moment her heel touched the insole, something shifted. Not painful, just heavy, like someone quietly placed a stone on her chest. But the shoes were perfect. She stood, wobbled, smiled for Amarachai's camera. "Bride, you are floating," Amarachi screamed. Nikki's smile never wavered. Chisaram paid 285,000 naira, every kobo she and her fiancé had saved for the wedding reception drinks. She left the shop feeling lightheaded, but happy. That night, the dream came. She was walking barefoot in a desert that stretched forever. The sand burned her soles. Her wedding gown was torn and filthy. She was crying, calling her fiancé's name, but the wind swallowed her voice. In the distance, she saw a woman wearing the exact crystal heels, walking away from her, getting smaller and smaller. She woke up sweating, legs aching like she had truly walked 1,000 miles. The next morning, her fiancé called off the wedding. No explanation, just, "I'm no longer interested." 2 days later, her shop in Idumoto caught fire. Everything gone. Amarachi rushed to her house, crying, "Chi, what happened?" Chisaram sat on the floor, staring at her feet. "I think it's the shoes." Amarachi laughed at first. Then she remembered her cousin who bought sandals from Nikki and lost her job the following month, and her friend's brother whose business collapsed after buying loafers. They went quiet. That evening, they returned to the market. The shop was locked. A new sign hung on the gate. "Branch relocating to Lagos Island. Thank you for your patronage." But people were still talking. Somebody said Nikki had bought a house in Banana Island cash. Somebody swore they saw her boarding a plane to Dubai with 6 suitcases. Somebody whispered that the old woman who sold tomatoes had finally been proven right. And in the corner of the market, under the same gutter where Nikki once sold flat slippers, the old tomato woman looked up at the sky and said softly, "Every shoe way fine pass Imona, check am well, because sometimes the prettiest things carry the heaviest curses, and sometimes the road to hell is paved with Italian leather and red bottoms." The market moved on, new shops opened, but nobody ever forgot the woman who sold shoes that walked people straight into the wilderness. And somewhere, in a mansion with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, Nikki kicked off a new pair of heels, smiled at her reflection, and never once looked back. Because success that makes the devil your supplier always collects with interest, and the interest is always your soul. Okria's voice dropped to a whisper so low Chisaram had to lean in until she could smell the akara oil on the girl's breath. "Auntie, that shop is not a shop. It is a trap." She glanced left, right, then pulled Chisaram deeper behind the stack of empty crates where the sun couldn't reach them. "Nikki was not born rich," Okria continued, eyes wide and red. "She used to sell Okria slippers near the gutter like me. One night, 12 years ago, she told us she met a woman at NCPO Junction. Tall woman, all white lace, red coral beads from neck to ankle. The woman gave her one small black pot and said, 'Any foot that enters your shoe will walk for you in the spirit until the person's destiny is finished. Their strength will become your money, their joy will become your house, their future will become your car.'" Chisaram felt her stomach turn. Okria hugged herself. At first, Nikki laughed. She thought it was joke. But the next week she opened the first small shop. Every customer that tried shoes and left. 2 weeks later their lives scattered. Some died, some went mad, some just woke up poor. And Nikki kept buying bigger shops, bigger cars, longer hair. Every night she pours palm oil inside that black pot and calls the names of the people who tested her shoes. Chisaram's mouth went dry. So the dreams we are dreaming are real. Okria finished. You are walking for her in the spirit. Every step you take in that wilderness is 1 more million entering her account. If you don't break it, you will walk until there is nothing left of you. Even your shadow will disappear. Chisaram grabbed the girl's wrist. How do we stop it? Okria's eyes filled with tears. Only one way. The pot must break. And only the last person who tested the shoe can break it. But Nikki keeps the pot inside a room no customer ever sees. Behind the mirror in the fitting section. The mirror that moves when nobody is looking. She started shaking. I ran away the night I saw her dragging one customer's shadow inside the pot. The shadow was crying. I swear, Chisaram felt cold sweat run down her back. Amarachi had not just tested the shoes, she had paid and carried them home. The silver heels were already in her room. That night, Chisaram went to Amarachi's house. Chi, she whispered, I can't stand up well again. My legs feel like they've carried the whole Onitsha market since morning. Chisaram told her everything Okria revealed. So my wedding finished because of ordinary shoe. Not ordinary, Chisaram said. Cursed. They held each other and prayed until their voices cracked, but the heaviness only grew worse. Then Chisaram remembered something. The silver shoes were still in Amarachi's bag. The last person whose feet had fully entered them was Amarachi. The next morning, before the market opened, before the sun was strong enough to wake evil, Chisaram and Amarachi returned to Nikki's shoes and more. The glass doors were still locked, but Okria had given them the back key she stole the night she escaped. They slipped in like thieves. The shop was dark and silent, smelling of new leather and something metallic, like blood left too long in a bowl. The big mirror in the fitting corner stared at them. Chisaram touched it. It was cold, too cold. Amarachi, clutching the silver heels in a black nylon, began to shake. Behind the mirror was a small door, hidden so perfectly only someone who knew it was there would find it. They pushed. The room was tiny, painted red, lit by one red bulb. In the center sat the black pot on a low stool, covered with a white cloth stained with palm oil. 7 cowries were arranged around it. And inside, something moved. A shadow twisted and cried softly. Chisaram felt her heart stop. Amarachi dropped to her knees, brought out the silver heels, and without thinking twice, threw them straight into the pot. The moment the shoes touched the oil, the pot hissed like a snake. Black smoke poured out. The red bulb exploded. The mirror behind them cracked from top to bottom, and from the pot came the sound of 1,000 feet suddenly stopping. Shadows flew out thin, tired, crying shadows of bankers, brides, big boys. Market women rushing past them, out through the cracked mirror, back to their owners. Chisaram grabbed the pot and smashed it against the floor. It shattered into 7 pieces. Palm oil mixed with something dark and thick spilled everywhere. A loud scream not human filled the shop and died as suddenly as it started. Silence. Then the front lights came on by themselves. The shoes on the shelves lost their shine. The glass doors fogged. The whole shop suddenly looked old, tired, ordinary. They ran out before anyone could see them. 3 days later, news spread through Onitsha like wildfire. Nikki's shoes and more had closed overnight. The shop was empty. Not one shoe remained. People said Nikki herself was found sitting in the middle of the empty store, hair cut short, eyelashes gone, crying and speaking in tongues nobody understood. Her Mercedes was towed away because the papers were fake. Her house in town was sealed. Landlord said she never paid a dime. And every single person who had ever bought or tested shoes in that shop woke up one morning feeling light, as if a heavy load had been lifted from their back. Madame Sheila got her job back and a promotion. Uncle Colin's car engine mysteriously started working again. Amarachi's fiancé called, crying, begging to fix the wedding date. Chisaram's scholarship was restored with an apology letter and extra funding. And in the market, the old tomato woman looked up at the sky and laughed until tears ran down her cheeks. Every shoe weigh fine past the owner, she told anyone who would listen. Check the sole. Sometimes the devil they sign autograph there. Nikki was never seen in Onitsha again. Some say she went back to selling flat slippers by the gutter. But the market learned one thing that year. Not every shining thing is blessing. Some are traps dressed in Italian leather. and the most dangerous steps you will ever take are the ones that feel too good to be true. Madam, destiny, theft. This one pass our jurisdiction. Oh, go to native doctor or pastor. We only arrest people. We no arrest spirits. He waved them out like troublesome flies. That night, the victims met again under a half-moon behind Madame Sheila's puff-puff kiosk. Mosquitoes sang. A single bulb flickered above them. Uncle Collins carried a small gallon of fuel. OJ brought a cutlass wrapped in red cloth. Madame Sheila held a Bible in one hand and a bottle of anointing oil in the other. Amarachi clutched the silver wedding heels that started everything, now wrapped in black nylon like a corpse. Chisaram stood in the middle, voice steady even though her heart was drumming. Tonight we know day fear again. Our destiny no be shuwei person go where. We go collect back with fire. Ucha arrived last, face hidden under a black hoodie. He carried a small clay pot and a live white cock that kept trying to escape. This one, he said, lifting the cock, will confuse the spirits guarding the charm. When it crows inside the shop, the power will shake. They moved at 1:47 a.m. Onitsha main market was empty except for night rats and the smell of yesterday's pepper. They slipped through the back gate. Ucha still had the key for Nikki's shoes, and Moore stood dark and silent. But the glass doors felt warm, like something breathing behind them. Ucha poured a circle of salt, mixed with schnapps around the entrance, and muttered words his grandmother taught him before she died. They entered. The shop looked smaller in the darkness. The shoes on the shelves no longer sparkled. They looked hungry. Ucha led them straight to the fitting section. He pressed his palm against the big mirror. It swung open like a door. Behind it, a narrow room painted blood red, lit by one red bulb that pulsed like a heart. In the center, on a low stool, sat the thing. A single old leather shoe, black and cracked, wrapped in rusty chains. Inside the shoe were hundreds of tiny photographs, faces of customers, some smiling, some crying, tied with red thread. Names were written in charcoal on small pieces of cloth and stuffed inside like tobacco. The air was thick, sweet trotting, like meat left too long in the sun. The white cock in Ucha's hand suddenly went mad, flapping and crowing at the top of its voice. The chains around the leather shoe began to rattle by themselves. Amaraki stepped forward first, tears running. She dropped the silver heels into the red bulb's light. "This is where my wedding died," she said, voice shaking but strong. "I take it back." One by one, the others came forward. Madame Sheila poured anointing oil over the shoe and began praying in tongues that sounded like war. Uncle Collins splashed fuel. Oji raised the cutlass. Chisaram lit the match. The moment the flame touched the old leather, the shop screamed. Not a human scream. Something older, angrier. The red bulb exploded. The chains flew off like angry snakes. Photographs burst into flames one after the other. Faces burning, mouths open in silent relief. The leather shoe curled, blackened, turned to ash. A cold wind rushed through the room, blowing out every candle, knocking them all to the floor. Then silence. Absolute. The red room was gone. They were sitting in an ordinary storage area full of empty cartons. The mirror had cracked into 1,000 pieces. Dawn was breaking outside. They walked out into the market as the first traders arrived. By 9 a.m. the news had spread faster than Harmattan fire. Nikki's shoes and more was empty. Not one shoe remained. The glass doors were cracked. And in the middle of the shop, sitting on the bare floor in a simple wrapper, hair scattered, makeup running, was Nikki herself. She was rocking back and forth, muttering the same words over and over. My legs cannot walk again." Her feet were swollen, black, bleeding like she had walked barefoot across hot coals for years. Traders gathered, phones out, but nobody laughed. They just watched in silence as 2 policemen carried her away. Some say she confessed everything in the station, crying that the old woman from NCPOR had come for her balance. Some say she now sells pure water at Upper Iweka, pushing truck with her bare hands. But every single victim woke up that morning feeling light. Amarati's fiancé called at 6 a.m., crying, begging. Wedding date was reset. Madame Sheila's bank called her back with double salary. Uncle Collins found his car keys in his pocket, and the engine started on the first try. The wilderness dream stopped forever. And in the market, whenever any new fancy shoe shop opens with shoes too fine, too cheap, too shiny, the old women selling tomatoes will look up and say the same thing. Fine shoe way, no get owner name for soul. Leave AM because destiny is not for sale. and no matter how high the heel, some roads you must never allow your feet to enter. The victims never spoke of that night again, but every year on the anniversary, they gather quietly, by one another ordinary rubber slippers, drink malt, and laugh until tears run, because they walked through fire together and came out wearing the simplest shoes but carrying the richest destinies of all. A big carry this matter, go church or native doctor, here nah for armed robber, not armed witchcraft. First pastor laid hands on Amarachi. Gibbs collapsed, started shouting, "Don't bring that name here." Second pastor opened his mouth. Gibbs began speaking pure WhatsApp, autocorrect. "Thus saith the Lord, your goat shall download data." It was clear, no human power could touch this thing. "Cheesy, don't let me die, I'm tired." Chisaram held her tight. "Tonight, we end. I swear." Even the usual generators were silent. The air felt thick, angry, waiting. Chisaram, fear in her throat but fire in her eyes. Amarachi so weak Collins carried her on his back, like a bride who never reached the altar. Madame Sheila, lantern in one hand, Bible in the other, praying in tongues that sounded like she was quarreling with demons on Glow Network. Ogechi, wearing a construction helmet for protection, spirit slap fit pass, helmet like Wi-Fi. Uncle Collins, jerrycan of petrol. Ucha, Nikki's brother, hoodie up, crowbar in hand, live white cock under his arm. Ucha spoke low. "Once we enter, no retreat. If anybody run, all of us go follow die. I don't tire for Puff Puff ministry." The moment their feet touched the front of Nikki's shoes and more, every light inside the shop blazed on by itself. No NEPA in the whole street, yet the shop glowed like heaven and hell were fighting inside. The glass doors slid open slow, welcoming, hungry. Collins whispered, "Chai, this now how horror film takes start." Ogechi pushed him. "Enter. Destiny, no day repair itself." The shop was no longer beautiful. Shoes on the shelves stared with empty, dead eyes. The sweet perfume now smelled like graveyard flowers. The tiles felt warm, like skin. Ucha dropped to the center, attacked the tiles with the crowbar. Sparks flew. The earth fought back. Chisaram stepped forward, knees knocking but voice steady. "Give us back what you stole. Tonight, this thing ends." Nikki laughed, slow and poisonous. Sheila shouted, "Give me back my bank job and my mattress." Wicked woman. Sheila flew 10 feet, crashed into a shelf, shoes raining on her head like judgment. Ucha roared, "I found it." Underneath, one ancient black leather shoe buried in red soil, wrapped in chains, stuffed with photographs and names written in blood. Tiny voices cried inside, "Free us, free us." Ucha opened the petrol, struck the match. Nikki's scream cracked the air. "Drop it or you all burn." Amara Sadayan, Amara accused her last strength to crawl forward and grab Nikki's ankle. "You killed my wedding. You will not kill again." Chisaram shouted, "UCHA now." The buried shoe exploded in red fire that shot to the ceiling like angry blood. Photographs burned, faces smiling 1 second, free the next. Thousands of trapped voices cried out in relief as the flames set them loose. The entire shop caught fire, instantly supernatural fire that ate only what was cursed. Nikki's legs caught first. They melted like candle wax. She tried to run, but her feet no longer obeyed her. Invisible hands dragged her backward. "No, give them back. Give them back to me." The victims felt it at the same moment, power rushing back into their bodies like cold water on fire. Amarachi stood up straight, skin glowing, strength restored. Sheila breathed deep for the first time in months. Chisaram felt peace flood her like early morning rain. They walked out as the shop collapsed behind them in flames that strangely did not spread to any other building. Nikki's shoes and more gone. Only blackened ground remained. Screaming, "My legs, they won't stop walking." Market people gathered. Phones out. No laughter only. Or, the woman way make people trek. Dan joined trekking department. That same morning the miracles poured like rain. Chima Amarati's fiancé ran to her house on his knees, crying, wedding date fixed next month. Sheila's bank called, "Madam, come back to work tomorrow. Full salary, apology, promotion." Collins turned his old key. Brand new Prado started itself. Chisaram's scholarship email, fully restored, plus living allowance. Ucha wept like a child. The covenant dawn break. Weeks later, Nikki was found pushing a wheelbarrow of pure water, barefoot, confused, begging for food in the same market she once ruled. And every time a new fancy shoe shop opens with shoes too fine, too cheap, too shiny, the old mamas selling tomatoes will pull you aside and whisper, "And destiny now fire where you must sometimes burn the devil's altar to collect back." Every year they gather quietly, no Mercedes, no lace, just rubber slippers, malt, and plenty laughter under the same mango tree, because the strongest people no day wear Italian leather. Sometimes them day wear ordinary bathroom slippers.